Welcome back to Practically Political. It's great to have you with us. I'm Dave Spencer.
And I'm Carrie Sheffield. It's great to have you.
All right, let's get right to it. I am so thrilled that we to have Ryan Clancy back with us from No Labels. They're chief strategist and policy wonk, as we like to call him. And we had him on the show a few months ago, and he kindly offered to come back to give us an update. So I guess, Ryan, what I'd love to hear from you to get us started is just what's been going on with No Labels. I know that you folks have decided to move ahead with the ticket. But you probably know a lot more than we do. So please give us the update to get us going, and welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you both for having me. Let's take a step back real quick to start and go back to the beginning, which is it's been 2 years now, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that, but 2 years that No Labels has been working to get on ballot access in states across the country. We're making amazing progress. So we're on the ballot in 16 states. We're active in 17 others. We feel very confident in the end, a unity ticket, if there is one, we'll be able to compete in all 50. I mean, just for context, Ross Perot was just starting his ballot operation at this point in 1992, and he got on in all 50. So we're exactly where we need to be. As you noted at the top, Dave, we did have a meeting of our delegates last week, 800 from all 50 states, and they voted to keep the process going. We had always said we're going to reevaluate after Super Tuesday, and that's where we are. We actually just today, here on the 14th, are announcing the process by which we pick the ticket. And then sometime in the coming weeks, we'll announce if we found the ticket that meets the threshold that we've set from the beginning, which is this has to be a ticket, two candidates that embrace No Labels governing values and that we think could actually win, that could take it all the way to the White House.
And I know this, obviously, Joe Manchin has decided he's not going to run. I know, you've had a couple of defections. I think Pat McCrory from North Carolina was the latest. Obviously, the former Maryland governor has dropped out. So I guess my question is, do you have any idea? Because I know some people have criticized you while you're doing the nominating process before you're choosing the candidates, and usually that's not how it's done, obviously. So we know what's the update on that?
Well, Dave, I think the favorite pastime of the media is baseless and uninformed speculation, and that's what's been going on with the candidates for several months. So I'm always surprised to read. There'll be some report that, hey, No Labels was considering X candidate and they dropped out. And I'll go, we didn't even really talk to that person. So every name that's been floated out there has been a name that somebody else put out there. So, and we've been casting a very wide berth. I mean, so we've been having conversations with people who are in or formerly were in elected office, but we've also been talking to military leaders, business leaders. We think there's a great group of people that we're talking to and that could eventually be on this ticket. Look, what I will say, I'll just be transparent about this. The one thing that makes it challenging is it's going to take some people with real courage to get on this ticket, because both parties have awoken to this threat and they are working very hard behind the scenes to threaten or bully any candidate who's even thinking of being part of this. In fact, it was just announced earlier today, the DNC is setting up a war room with the explicit purpose of trying to hound any independent voices out of the election, just so they can ensure it's Trump Biden in the end.
So I guess my question on that, though, yes, we are a two-party system in the U.S. right now. So you said you had 800 people on the call. That's not a lot of people when you're talking about a country of over 300 million people. And I'm just thinking just like nuts and bolts. So it's one thing to get on the ballot, but it's one thing when you have these massive operations like the DNC and the RNC with the voter rolls, get out the vote, door knocking. Like, how do you build that massive infrastructure? You've got a little over 7 months to compete with that.
So No Labels has actually built a lot of the essential infrastructure a campaign would actually need. eventually. So we got the ballot access. That's a key starting point. We've helped identify electors in the state, in state leadership branches. We have built a citizen file, and this is really key. We have one of the most powerful tools that both parties have is they have these massive files of voters, which they use to target and turn out those people. Well, those are tools that candidates in the Democratic and Republican Party use to great effect. Nobody had ever really built that for this space, for the common sense majority. We have. All these assets can, in some form or fashion, actually be moved over or transferred over to an eventual campaign. So we think the analogy we've used, Carrie, is we're building a launching pad. Eventually, if there's a ticket, they'll have to build the rocket ship to get to the White House.
Well, and also I know there's been criticism of two things. First of all, have you done anything to address one of the major worries that people have, that since you're not disclosing who your donors are, which again, people say, well, that's really not, this is a transparent organization, that's something they should do. How do you assuage people's concerns that you don't have a bunch of people like Harlan Crow or some major Republican donors that are funding it? Because I don't know any, I don't know any biased source who thinks that you are going to help Biden. I think most people say that because Trump, where Biden does the best is when voters don't like either candidate. And his chance of winning is based on the people that don't like both candidates, of which there are many, voting for him. And that's where those people are more vulnerable to a third party pickoff, if you will. So have you done anything to assuage people's concerned about the non-disclosure of donors?
Well, Dave, there's two points about the spoiler question. And I'd start with this. The whole argument that no labels would only spoil the election in favor of Trump and to the detriment of Biden starts with the premise that this is Joe Biden's election to lose. Except, unfortunately for the president, it's not. So here we are standing today.
Reason, but anyway.
Well, no, David is right now he's losing nationally. He's losing in every single swing state. If you look at the betting markets, which were actually more accurate than the polls in 2020, he's got a 27% chance to win. And so there's this very big disconnect, which no one in the Democratic Party seems to want to reconcile with, which is, on the one hand, our democracy is at risk in this election. But then they say, and the only way to deal with that is for everybody to just shut up and say nothing and swing behind the weakest incumbent since the advent of modern polling. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, Dave, is the question of how do you build confidence that no labels is not in this as part of some secret effort to help Trump? What I would say to you is
disclose your donors. That would be a major reason you want to do that. Disclose your donors.
Yeah, there's a reason we haven't. We're not a political party. We're a nonprofit.
But that's not the issue, though.
No, but Dave, it is an issue, and here's why. Just this morning, it was announced that the DNC has stood up a war room to just hound and chase third-party candidate independent voices out of the process. They have made it an explicit part of their strategy to lean on supporters, donors, prospective candidates. So this whole thing about transparency, it's a joke. What they want, Dave, is a punch list of no label supporters so they can go harass them to get them to walk away from this movement. What I'd say for anybody who wonders and wants to say this is a shadow effort to help Trump, I'd say this. I came up in Democratic politics. I used to work for Biden. I don't ever want to see Donald Trump be president again. And I'd ask you, look at our co-chairs. Joe Lieberman, 2000 vice presidential nominee for the Democrats, and Dr.
Who spoke at a Republican convention, by the way.
Okay, well then let's say Dr. Benjamin Chavis, former head of the NAACP, youngest person ever to go to work for Dr. Martin Luther King. Do you think the two of them, and do you think me, do you think they're putting their whole legacy and reputation on the line to secretly help Donald Trump?
No, Ryan, but a lot of what you guys have done, I agree, in terms of the problem solvers and everything is, but we're getting too lost in the weeds here. The big picture is that third-party candidates hurt the incumbent, and generally that's the macro picture. The micro picture is that in this election, considering, as you say, Biden's weakness, considering that Trump has a very solid floor, and considering that when this is the most unpopular pair of candidates in the history of this country, so they're more prone to third party pickoffs. When you consider all of this, this is the one election where it does hurt the incumbent more. And I think we can agree to disagree on that.